Bondage and freedom from journey to infinity. Artificial feeling and the idea of firmness of artificial relationship was all a form of mental conception, just like religion. It was a play of man's willpower being unidirectional. Now, the question is, how is this life a bondage? The answer is that thought alone has made this play a cause of bondage. Desire gave birth to greed in mind. It held the mind steadfast. Gradually, the greed became strong, and that was the root cause to bind. In that firmness, the mind was bound with the thread of I-ness.
Highness.
It acted as the warp and woof, and the web was knit all around. Thus increased the desire for bondage. It became mine of worry and vice. Just as the gate of snake and mouse, it remained quite unwise. It does not give up greed nor its association, and wants to be by its side. Where there is greed, there it resides, a strange and wonderful juxtaposition. This is the bondage of the rope of time, hardly one can see. When the Lord bestow His grace supreme, then disappears mental worry. It goes to the cause of bondage and how we have formed the bondage. Take a pause.
We'll go ahead then.
Okay. For example, in a drama, a certain individual assumes the role of the King Indra and comes on the stage. Due to the strong thought, he considers himself Indra during the play and even after the drama is over. This thought took a firm root in his heart. People laughed at him and explained to him, but he could not be convinced, with the result that he experienced sorrow and became a butt of ridicule. So this is when I was reading this, I was thinking more as in this life, right? We are given a certain role, and we get so much attached to this role and the name that has been given to us. And this is where, when someone ridicules us or someone praises, we feel bad or good, and that just increases our attachment with the role that we have. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes.
Take another example. A person thought in the dream that he was ill, and the thought became so firm that it persisted even after his waking. Now, he labored under the same illusion in the waking state and during sleep. Though he appears to be quite healthy, he never admits, and he remains unhappy without any reason. This is another example of bondage. Take a pause here, see if people are relating with the example. Take one more example. A person is under the illusion of ghost. He saw a bare branch of a tree in the dark night and thought it to be a ghost. He thought power told him that the branch is a long-toothed ghost. He became afraid and ran away, fell down, and became unconscious. When he regained consciousness and opened his eyes, the illusion of the ghost caught hold of him. He begins to talk at random and to roam here and there like a madman. He is thus unhappy. When a thought born out of illusion torments a man in this way, he is caught in its bondage and becomes unhappy. This world is a place of illusory thoughts where thousands of affairs of illusion happen. What else can a man be except being unhappy when caught in the meshes of illusory thoughts? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Kshudra is a thought born of illusion. Grihastha, Vanprastha, Sannyas is an illusory thought. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew is an illusory thought. Men who have been caught in the chains of this bondage are so much worried that they are unable to understand reality. All these bondages are not real. All of them are artificial, illusory, pertaining to thought and fictitious. This chain goes far beyond, so much so that it exists in the other world even after death.
I have got one doubt that in the very first para it is said that the man's willpower being unidirectional. Unidirectional means it is worldly oriented, or how it is? What is the meant by unidirectional willpower? Very first para of this article.
Unidirectional means it is moving towards an objects, outside the world. It thinks that it will get happiness if it gets money. It thinks that happiness if he gets some desire fulfilled in the form of food or clothing, shelter, whatever it is, whatever pleasure. He believes that if he earns a lot of money, he'll be happy. He believes that if he marries beautiful people, he'll be happy. If he believes that he gets power, he'll be happy. So his will is moving in that direction only, towards the external world. So that is the unidirectional means that only. It's going outside of himself. So whenever it is going outside of himself, that is, he will be thinking of fulfilling some desires in the future only. So how to get that desire fulfilled? He has to create a plan in his mind. So he breeds thoughts in his mind and he gets trapped in this mind. So the only way is if you have to go back inside and connect yourself with the line of divinity inside you. So that is possible only if your mind acquires a state of poise and tranquility. When your mind becomes tranquil and equipoised, then it is connected back to the divinity. Then only he gets freedom from bondage. Otherwise, there is a word called Prapancha. That means mentally we create a world actually. So every human being, when he sees any object in the world, that object causes a vritti in the mind, and the mind reacts to that vritti and creates a world actually. It's a common experience. Like suppose you see the news and you see that you see corona cases are increasing. Increasing means suddenly you'll start thinking what will happen to schools, what will happen to my job, what will happen to the function which you are supposed to attend and all that. So you'll start breeding those thoughts. And suppose you see that the corona cases are coming down, you will think that we can attend the satsang, we can meet together. Like that, these thoughts keep on developing, you create a mental world inside you. On all those worlds are nothing but thoughts which are nothing but illusions only. But we are trapped in those illusions, and then that is the cause of bondage. And when you meditate, and when you in a relaxed frame of mind, you rest yourself, you think about the presence of divine in your heart with a feeling of love and devotion. As a result of meditation, your mind becomes calm. So the thoughts become less. When the thoughts become less, the mental world which you are in the habit of creating, that mental world is not created. And mental world is not created, you're not seduced by the mental world. And when you're not seduced by your mental world, you're free from that attachment and free from that bondage also. That's how the mind works.
Okay, thank you. Next panel.
Other questions? That what this is saying is all the thoughts in the mind are illusory, right?
That is true, no? That's what we learn in meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation, we realize that when your mind becomes quiet, there are no thoughts, you have a sense of freedom. You don't have any desires. And when the desire is not there, the mind comes into existence to fulfill the desires. And the desires are not there, you're absorbed, you know. That's why when people sit in meditation, they lose consciousness of time. That means that you don't exist at that time. If you don't exist, who is there to be under bondage? There's nobody there to be bound. You're not a slave anymore because you don't exist at that time. So in meditation, we temporarily transcend the mind itself. That is why we forget time sense, we forget awareness of our body, and we are achieving freedom to that extent, you can say. And when we come back into the mind, we again get into our thought world, and then we are seduced by those thought world, and then we are in bondage. Okay, we'll go ahead. This is a practical experience of people who are meditating. When they're free from thoughts, you're free from ego, and ego is nothing but a thought. If I feel that I am Dr. Madhav, and then I feel that I am separate from the world around me, then there's a base for something to be under bondage. Suppose I forget myself, and when I'm thinking about the divine, it is not possible to think two things at the same time for the mind. Either it thinks about the master or thinks about myself. Suppose I'm thinking about master, during that time I forget myself. When I forget myself, and then if that meditation becomes deeper and it touches the deeper plane, you totally forget yourself. And when you forget yourself, there is no self existing. When I is not existing. When I is not existing, what is there to be bonded? Your bondage is possible when only something is existing. When that is not existing, bondage doesn't exist. So when there are no thoughts, there is no I, there is no bondage. That is why Sir used to say after the satsang prayer and all that, he used to request all of us to remain in silence only, because if you break the silence, you will create a mental world, and then mental world means thoughts will be there, and thoughts will start, and you start getting seduced by those thoughts, and then likes and dislikes will come, and then you're in bondage actually. Okay.
Yeah.
So illusory thoughts, by this time you almost know that thoughts are illusion only, no? They're just like clouds. Like suppose I ask you 1 month back, can you recollect what thoughts you had? Unless you have written in a diary, you will not be able to recollect anything, because they're just, they're not existing anymore.
Yeah.
So unless you go back into the diary and then look into it, this that day, that particular day on the 10th of January, these thoughts came, then you can see. But now, if you ask me what was the thought 10, I don't know, because they got no solid existence. They're illusory. They come and go, like a cloud is disappeared into the blue sky. They don't exist. They don't have a substantial existence. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If one can understand this bondage, and after enjoying pleasures and suffering miseries, one feels aversion towards them or mentally refrains from them, you will find many a man free in this world in the same way as they are bound.
So he is now referring to people like us who are meditating, who are free, because our minds are calm. There are no thoughts are there. If the thoughts are not there, there is no bondage actually.
Such men begin to persuade and pacify as soon as desires are born. They are called wise men of high approach. They free the persons in bondage by proper means and instructions. Their existence is a matter of fortune. They are called mumukshu, or desirous of emancipation, and are highly qualified and the most fit. But those devotees of God who love bondage are very obstinate and stubborn. They do not want to break the bondage, but only want to save themselves from misery. Such is their fitness. The doctors of their diseases are generally propagators of religion who treat one illusion with another illusion and have gradually freed many. The third category of men are even worse than these. They know full well that customs and manners, particular religions and traditions, are the worst bondage. But they are enemies of all reform. Those who free them are somewhat harsh by nature. They take work with strictness and topple down the faith and beliefs of their disciples. They dig out the roots of illusory ideas with cruelty and oppression. They are good at heart, but when they see no other means, they are compelled to take work with strictness and force.
You could see a small trace of this quality in revered sir, who appeared to be harsh when he used to tick off people and then used to shout at people, because he knew that without taking those measures, it is very difficult to correct the, even in spite of suggestions to divert, to moderate the tendencies of the mind. If suggestions are not working, he felt it was necessary to jolt them into awakening, and so that allow the suggestions to work. So he had to, at the risk of being dubbed as a man, he's an angry person and all that, he's, he risked being, getting a reputation for being, but the basic motive is to correct your mind, because that we were able to observe in him, and we were all subjects to his discipline actually.
Yeah.
But without that, I several times I told sir, I said, sir, I thought that I was a great devotee of Babuji, and then I thought I'm a very sincere in meditation, all that. But without your guidance and without your harsh words, probably I wouldn't have been on the path, or I would have been under a delusion that I am progressing on the path. So he, because of his training, he was able to jolt people out of the delusion and help them to move on the path successfully. So you can see shades of those things.
Yes.
We are somewhat harsh by nature. They take work with strictness and topple down the faith and beliefs of the. They dig out roots of illusory ideas with cruelty and oppression. They are good at heart, but when they see no other means, they are compelled to take work with strictness and force. And we'll go ahead, yes.
Okay. There is a fourth type of freeing men who are called saints, who are found in almost all religions and sects. They are most sympathetic, most kind, and very good at heart. They become a friend, philosopher, and guide, and awaken the disciples. They do not adopt the method of threatening, refuting, or beating. They reveal the reality by safe and peaceful means. They strengthen the chain of their satsang and give the benefit of their satsang to those who are caught in illusion. Without aversion towards religion or tradition, they explain to the aspirants according to their bent of mind, but give them their own color and make the aspirant like themselves. These are different kinds of liberators. The patient, however, is certainly fit for some kind of treatment or the other. Now the fact remains that some patients act according to the advice of the doctor and take medicine, remaining on strict diet, and they regain health in a short time. Some invite disease due to their ignorance. Some do not adhere to diet. Some do not care for doctor's advice. That is why the remedies of doctors differ. Among patients, they are the best who have faith in the doctor, who delight in taking medicine, and who are willing to remain on strict diet. Such patients recover their health easily and in a short time. The second type of patients hear the advice of the doctor but seldom keep up the diet. Their doctor explains to them, coaxes them, and gradually brings them to normal health by slow and average treatment. The third type of patients wants to get better but are very bad at regimen. They dislike bitter medicine and at times they look upon their doctor with contempt. For them, nature sends a hard-hearted physician who sits on the chest of the patients and make them swallow medicine by force. He never listens to the words of his patients and treats them with utmost cruelty, strictness, and compulsion. He never cares for the sentiments of his patient. The fourth type of physicians are the saints who become a friend and sympathizer of their patient and treat the disease according to convenience. They bring the patients under their control through love, however stubborn they may be, and restore their health. The qualification for treatment is the condition of the patient at each and every stage. So here when we look at master, when we look at sir, right, is more fourth type, right? Who are most sympathetic, most kind, very
Depending on
good.
each person is different, no? Depending on the person who is coming to him for training, he will deal with that person accordingly. So it will not be uniform, some people. So there is no generalized medicine which fits all patients equally. Each person is different. Each person is a different level of development. Each person has a different type of complexity. So each person requires a different level of treatment, different kind of adjustment in training, actually. That's what it says, no?
Yeah.
Like, for example, in Buddhism, I was studying Buddhism recently quite a lot. There are about 40 methods of objects of meditation given to persons with different temperaments, actually. So choice is so much there. So if anybody wants to add anything to the discussion, because this is Bodhayanti Parasparam, we want to learn from each other's experience. We want other people also to come out of their shyness and then participate in the discussions. Because when the discussions come, certain clarifications will emerge, actually. That is the idea. Idea of learning only. It's not a... Then we will go to this chapter 25. It's just a one-page thing.
Sir, 1 second.
Chappan.
Sir, when we have a dream, we see something in the dream, that illusion continues, they say. Like even if you wake up from the dream also, it will be recorded in subconscious. Am I right? You see something uncomfortable in the dream. Even after you wake up, that continues to be a fear or illusion because it's already recorded in the subconscious. Can I understand that way?
Dream is a big subject, actually. Dreams are nothing but your own subconscious psychological content, which is coming up in sleep, actually. In the dreaming stage, the subconscious psychological content is coming to your awareness in the dream subject, actually. So sometimes when people wake up from dream, they'll be sweating, they'll be their heart rate will increase and all that, because in the dream state, the person actually undergoes that experience. Just like in the waking state, what we experience, we feel it is real. The phenomenological experience which we feel is very real in our waking state. But in the dream state also, during the dream state, it is extremely real for that person. But generally what happens is when you wake up from the dream, the nature of consciousness of the waking state and the nature of consciousness in the dreaming state is radically different. Rules are there. In the waking state, there is a logic is there. There is a there are certain rules. There are space and time constraints are there. Whereas in the dream state, there is no logic. Suppose you meet with a person, that person suddenly will become an animal, and then suddenly you'll be seeing a cinema, and suddenly you'll find that you're falling from an aeroplane or something. And whatever experiences happen, you don't question the experience of the dream. It is real to you at that time. But there is so much of fluidity in the dream. But whatever content, unquestionably, you will accept it as real. So dream, the point you have to take advantage, because one of the methods given is to contemplate on the dream state. If you contemplate on the dream state, it can liberate you from your bondage also. It can make your mind very calm. So if you, that is why if you read Mandukya Upanishad, which talks about all these things, you will be liberated straight away.
Okay.
So the point you have to understand is when you are coming out of dream, you're not at all concerned about what is happening to the dream. Suppose in the dream, I meet my friend and then he has met a heart attack and he undergoes bypass surgery. When I wake up from the dream, I know it's a dream. I feel relieved. I don't immediately take up a phone and ring up my phone. How are you? Are you recovering from the heart surgery? I will not do that. I look silly and then I laugh at myself. So it's a different psychology. But mind you, the thoughts which are illusions, which Lalaji has described beautifully in the first few paragraphs. The waking state is also a dream from another perspective, actually, and all these thoughts are also as illusory as you have found that you've been flying in the air and then you're crossing the river, walking in the river in the dreams and all that. All those things may look real, but they're all illusions. The same waking state is an illusion for a realized person, actually. For a person who knows that the mind is just a fluctuating, changing gunas, actually. Sattva, Raja and Tamo guna, constantly changing is the thought which can thought which can occur in your mind is possible to occur in millions of people's mind, because the mind is basically of the same stuff and it may mean nothing. Thoughts have no meaning at all in real existence. So if you meditate on, contemplate, not meditate, if you contemplate on the nature of dreams, you'll start getting some glimpses of what is the nature of mind, what is the power which causes the mind to work. Okay. All that understanding will come to you.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So we'll read this chapter 25. This is all practical things which will help us. We'll read both nature of freedom or liberation, and then subject of liberation. So we'll read nature of freedom or liberation.
Yeah.
So I'll read it. Attaining freedom from miseries is liberation. Liberation is both permanent and temporary. When the liberation is such that the bondage of sorrow is never felt, it is a permanent liberation. Is bondage also permanent? If we are to speak of liberation as permanent, no. Bondages are not permanent. They are temporary. If bondages were permanent, there would not have been any possibility of liberation from them. This is important. For example, now the feeling of self, the feeling of ahankara. Ahankara is nothing but a thought in my mind that this body of mind, which is occupying a certain space here, is called Madhava and all that. And it is mere thought only. But the thought, the mind has clung to the thought as if it's a real thing. So it is, clinging to that one particular thought, you can take it as a kind of a ahankara or ego. Ego is nothing but a kind of a solidified or a knot spinning in your mind, which is not dissolving, but it is, it assumed a kind of a solidity, but it's a spinning thing in your chit lake, actually. So, but then all spinning things can dissolve and then water can flow back smoothly. So, so they are not real things. So whereas God behind your mind, which causes the mind to function, that is real existence, substantial. You can catch them and hold it permanently. Whereas ego is a shadowy figure. You cannot catch it. So suffering in that way is also illusory because it can be cured. Whereas you cannot cause God to disappear because that's a reality. That's a truth and reality which you can attain it. Whereas with an illusory self, thinking that you will attain happiness in the external world, which is an impossibility. So that you must understand. is bondage also permanent? If we are to speak of liberation as permanent, then it is no. Bondages are not permanent, they are temporary. If bondages were permanent, there would not have been any possibility of liberation from them. Now the question is that if bondages are temporary and not permanent, liberation would also be temporary. Bondages, however, are temporary, but liberation is permanent. That is what he says. Some say that being bereft of feeling and movement like the sun is liberation. Some think that being one with the ocean as the drop is liberation. Others say that flame uniting with flame is liberation. Some believe that one who ascends high is liberated, but none of this is true. Mental attachment is bondage and detachment is liberation. He is putting it very simply. Mental attachment is bondage and detachment is liberation. It is also called sacrifice or renunciation. Renunciation and detachment can also be called liberation. Following is the difference between these two, which is also found in a saint and in one who has renounced everything. Those who see attachment in detachment and detachment in attachment are called saints. Such is their liberation. Their system goes beyond the levels of non-attachment and attachment. That is, the levels of attachment and detachment, and reaches pure existence. This is a positive way. He who renounces everything is a detached person. He goes beyond the levels of total detachment towards attachment, and this is the way of not this, neti, neti. The desired goal and ideal of both is one and the same. One is quite clear about it, whereas the other is devoid of clear vision. But even that is not total negation. How can there be a negation of negation? It appears to be mere jugglery of meaningless words. Internally, he also aims at attachment, and there is no other go but to accept this attachment. Negation or renunciation is the way of pure knowledge, and attachment is the way of love and devotion, which is purely positive. I mean, there's too much of philosophy involved in that. If anybody is interested to talk about it, the forum is open.
So does it say that both the ways are towards the goal, attachment and also detachment? Because total detachment also is attachment, it says, right?
Yeah, it says
that total detachment, extreme detachment also is like an attachment.
You see, that is why we have in yoga we have the Shat Sampattis. One of the 6 Sampatti is called Uparati. Uparati is you don't even have negative feeling against the world. There's a equanimity. You are neither attached nor detached with the world. You work as a duty. So that's why actually in yoga the reality is beyond existence and non-existence, beyond akar and nirakar. So it is very difficult to describe the state of mind when a person is living in a state of realization. That's why Babuji says you become dumb. So there is in renunciation means, suppose you are now saying the world is false, it is all illusory. If you are renounced, then you are negating the existence of God itself. Because if you see our metaphysics, our Babuji's metaphysics of reality, he says, out of the Kshob, the line of humanity is developed. Line of humanity means because human being is there, but it also means all the galaxies, the earth, and then flora and fauna, everything comes under the question of line of humanity. And then he says, I am saying it as a line of humanity because it was originally divinity only, but then it has taken a grosser form. So for the sake of understanding, I'm using the word line of humanity, he says. So everything is divinity only. So if you say I am renouncing the world, so this world is illusory and it's false, you should not get trapped by the attraction of the world, means you're also saying I am trying to trying to say that God does not exist in all the atoms and molecules, which is obviously wrong. So you go beyond attachment and detachment, and you are in a different state. That is called state of balance, which Babuji describes in the 5th commandment, first paragraph. He talks, it is as it is. He uses the word, it is as it is. He will neither use any language to describe what it is actually. So one thing you must understand is this has been huge debate in between Hinduism and Buddhism and all that. Buddhism says, there's no soul at all. Whereas we say that Atma is there and Atma is equal to Brahman, Tattvamasi, or, your own Jivi, when it is out of bondages, that itself is Brahman only. So everything is one. Aham Brahmasmi, all these concepts are there. Ours is a positive way of trying to merge in God. Their Buddhism also is arranged the same thing with a different language. He says you try to be free from suffering. And if you're free from suffering, it is bliss only, no? You merge in God, it is bliss. If you're free from suffering, it is bliss. So both are talking the same goal, but in a different language, that's all. So its philosophy, we'll leave it because it is an endless subject. No, subject of liberation. Somebody can read.
Chapter 25. The subject of liberation. The means of attaining liberation is this: Guru Bhakti in one life, and chanting the divine name in the second, liberation in the third life, and in the fourth, the goal is attained. That is, continence in the first life, householder in the second, go to the forest in the third, in the fourth, the goal is reached. Guru Bhakti means only worship. Spend some time in the company of the master and get your doubts cleared. Then internal practice, that is chanting the divine name and silent muttering of it for some time. If this practice is continued for some time, one will gain liberation. This is called the condition of liberation during one's lifetime, or Jivan Mukta condition, Jivan Mukta Dasha. Enjoy this condition for some days and you will automatically reach the real destination from which there is no return. Liberation is not the goal or the ideal of the way of saints called Sant Mat. It is achieved in the normal course of the process of worship and in the process of the law of habit, the satsang. The satsangi attains liberation during his own lifetime easily. It is achieved in the normal course of the process of worship and in the process of the law of habit, the satsangi attains liberation during his own lifetime easily. The superiority lies in the knowledge of our own real form, which we already have from the very beginning. Due to illusion, we are unable to gain real knowledge. Worship and devotion make it clear. This is the original thing. That which is the cause of bondage, when reversed, helps in attaining liberation. Sir, any comment on this?
The traditional Vedantic literature.
Yeah. He says Brahmachari and Grihastha, Vanaprastham and Sannyasam. That's what he says. The means of liberation or the ways of liberation. There are three causes of bondage. One is remembrance, 2 meditation, 3 bhajan. And the practice of these 3 is associated with external things. The result would be birth, and bondage. And when they are practiced at heart internally, keeping the goal constantly in view, it will result in freedom from external and surface bondage. One, remembrance means remembering again and again. Constant remembrance. Meditation means having the idea. Bhajan means contemplation or continuous meditation. Reverse these according to the instructions of the master. There should be resistance to outside impressions and the inner veil should be removed. Then gradually the meaning of liberation will become clear and the liberation will be attained. This is constant remembrance and the meditation and the divine light as we practice, and bhajan, that is internal contemplation or continuous meditation. Again, that is samadhi sthiti. I think he is telling the meaning of bhajan in a different way.
Oh no. అంటే ఇప్పుడు even traditional people, when they do bhajan, the bhajan is done. Some people indulge in bhajan to enjoy the sensual enjoyment because the voice hitting their ear, and then that music creates a pleasant feeling. Actually, it's a sensory feeling. It's like a sensory enjoyment actually. But that's why, Sir was very critical. He says, how many people have listened to Babuji's Dinana Dukharananath? He was singing with feeling and emotion. But then we would like to listen to Lata Mangeshkar or whatever, because their voice is more beautiful and well-trained voice. So it causes pleasure in your mind. Whereas people are not attracted to Babuji because they are not seeing the emotion or devotion in his words actually. So if you compare these two, then you'll understand. If you're conscious of the idea and you're conscious of the feeling of devotion, then that bhajan will be helpful spiritually. But if the bhajan is approached with an idea of music, it's a sensory pleasure. So, if bhajan is approached in a proper idea of thinking about the God and trying to cultivate feelings of worship and feeling of love feeling, then it's a kind of a constant remembrance.
Yeah. Then bhajan also becomes a way of meditation only.
Yeah, that's right.
One question, sir.
Bolo Prasad.
In first para, it says Guru Bhakti in one life, chanting divine name in second life, liberation in third life, and fourth goal is gained. So is he referring to our goal in third commandment or different?
That goal is the liberation always.
That is in third life.
No, here the lives means is the same single life. In the first, you have the brahmacharya, where you live with the guru and learn. Understand? You are in a gurukul. You are a brahmachari, and you stay with the guru and learn the things. Okay, that is the first life. The second life, you are in the grihastha ashrama, and you are doing the worship as a grihastha, attending to the duties and performing the puja as well. In our system, it is chanting the divine name. That is the grihastha ashrama dharma. You are in the worship of the divine along with your partner. Okay. And in the third life, you go to Vanaprastha. You will give up all these things and go to a Vanaprastha. Leave everything and be in your own self. And in the third, you leave everything. That is Sannyasasrama. Last asrama is the Sannyasasrama, where you attain the renunciation and get the liberation. So it is a single life. He divides it into 4 phases of the life. Not that we need 4 lives to get liberation. No.
We'll give ourselves some time, then we'll move to the food article.
Other questions? Anyone?
Questions or any comments or any understanding? If people would questions, then we can, clarification will emerge.
How do we practice bhajan in our practice? Like bhajan, right?
Who is talking? This
Subodh.
Achha, bhajan is for us. We are just we don't encourage bhajan and all that. We are saying constant remembrance only. Ours is yoga, where we will be trying to be absorbed in the when we sit in meditation. We achieve, as a result of meditation, we get a condition of the mind whereby you find yourself in a peaceful state. You feel like getting absorbed in the thought of the master, and you try to be drowned in that condition even the whole day itself. Even you're working also. Before you work, you dedicate the work so that subconsciously you're drowned in the thought of the master. And when the work is over, consciously you try to recollect the state of mind which you got in the morning meditation. And then our practice is try to retain the condition, try to perpetuate the calm, tranquil state of mind which you got in the morning meditation. So that is called constant remembrance. If you can call constant remembrance as bhajan, that is okay.
Okay.
That is a method prescribed by Babuji. The constant remembrance is the thing actually. You should, you have to do a lot of effort in the beginning stages to retain the calmness which you gain in the morning meditation. And as you keep on striving to retain that calmness, gradually the mind will become disciplined. It becomes easier and easier to stay in the tranquil state of mind. And then the number of thoughts will reduce, and the thoughts will reduce, the bondage also will be, slowly you're getting more and more freedom. That is the idea with us.
Yeah.
The other thing says here, right, when the practice of these 3 is associated with external things, the result would be birth and bondage.
Yeah.
So I think is many times we are just thinking about the external things, and then so even just remembering those external things or contemplating is a bhajan, but that results in birth and bondage. And what we are saying is remembering and contemplating on the condition of meditation will lead us to the freedom.
That's right. Yes.
Possibly this all these articles are historically prior to the formation of Babuji Maharaj's molding by Lalaji Maharaj, I think. So that is why he has discussed more about the traditional methods. Is it so, sir?
I'm not thinking like that. I'm just taking the advice from the Guru as it comes. I'm not questioning why he's thought like that, why he's thinking like that. Anyway, I didn't think like that. I trained myself not to think like that.
What
Of course, the flavor of Babuji and Lalaji is different, you can know, but then they're all useful, no? Everything.
actually it is written that meditation means having the idea. What does that mean?
Divine light.
Divine light.
Mind you, divine light also in our system, Babuji has got, he says, I didn't get any other word. Suppose you have some word in German or Danish or something, you tell me, I'll use that word. Because there is no other word, I use the word divine light. And he says divine light without luminosity. The idea is that divine light is actually a concept actually, but a concept or a thought in your mind. Even that thought is an illusory thought. So, but then that points out to a reality, and we have to, our mind should merge in that reality, which that word divine light indicates. So, but since he says the subtlest object of meditation, which I have found is just a mere supposition that God, divine light is present in the heart. A simple, a very simple thought without any pressure in your mind, without any concentration or force in your mind, with a relaxed body and a relaxed, peaceful state of mind, you just, in a very natural way, you just suppose that divine is present in the heart, and then allow your mind to rest on that. And that will act like a springboard, like when you go into the swimming pool, there's a springboard is there. You use that springboard to dive into the swimming. So this object of the divine light without luminosity is the springboard for your mind to move into actual reality itself. And since he has found no word which will convey to you the understanding of what is reality, he says, I just found this word divine light without luminosity, but that is only to act as a base for your mind to settle on that. And when your mind settles on that idea, it will take you to the possessor of that divine light, and that is God, and that is reality. You must understand very clearly, it's a very, the whole point should be extremely properly understood. Then if you hold that idea for 1 hour in the morning, and whenever you have got free time, you try to hold that idea for a particular period of time, then that is meditation. As long as you're holding that idea, then your mental world or your desires and then aversions or hatreds or ill will against anybody, they cannot come and occupy your phenomenal space. Your phenomenological space will be not be, these thoughts will not come and then try to distract your mind away. If you are meditating correctly, this will occupy the center of your cognitive space, and your mind will get absorbed in that. When it gets absorbed, that causes the purification of the mind, that causes the weakening of desires, weakening of fears, and weakening of greed. All those things happen as a result of meditation. But now it is now all of you are there. It is now possible for all of us to think of the divine light. Subtle presence of divine light is permeating all of us, and we are all connected to the great master, and his blessings and good wishes are there for us. And then you just conceive of that idea in your mind, and then give a suggestion that this idea is will be alive in your subconscious as long as you are in this reading session. So that suggestion will keep this mind dominating in your subconscious mind, And when and you can examine yourself when your mind is not going outside the world, and when there's no other work, this will come into your conscious mind. And when this thing comes into your conscious mind, you'll be just flooded with peace only. So you can do this exercise. You can retain this feeling that Babuji's grace is supporting us, he is attracting us towards him, and then you hold that thought and you give a suggestion that it is present in the subconscious mind, and that simply works. It's as simple as that. We'll try this, and then you'll see that whenever you're free, your mind will be, when there's no other work happening, when you try to examine your mind and see what is your condition of the mind, you'll find that it is generally silent only. There will not be much thoughts. And even thoughts are there, there'll be good thoughts only, thoughts which give you some happiness, and some kind of joy will be there in whatever thoughts come into your mind. Or there will be no thoughts which will make you feel, enjoy that peaceful condition actually. So we'll go to the next chapter, 27.